Hi everyone, it's Mentor Val. This video will unfortunately be the last retouching related lecture I'll be putting out for this season of Global ZEPETOR class. Because it's the last, I wanted to make it special. This video will be a Q&A using the questions that I've collected in my comments on both ZEPETO and Instagram. I hope that this video helps you whether you're a mentee, someone who's been following along the whole time, or someone who stumbled upon this video eager to learn more about editing. User Honey-san on ZEPETO says, what app do you use? And this is a simple question. I use Ibis Paint X. And here's some further information. I also use an iPad with my Apple Pencil. It's a 2019 iPad Pro. It's 11 inches. Sandy Rizel or Razel on ZEPETO says, I still have issues with hair retouching and drawing. What simple ways do you think I can go for it? So for me, the answer would just be to try your best to find hairstyles or hair retouching that you like and see or try and copy how they do it to get yourself comfortable. Make sure that's a simple way. So my way I think is relatively simple. You can watch my tutorials on the hair retouching examples I gave, such as the first lecture of week 1, where I used a default oil hairbrush. I put on force fade and I just sketched out an outline. Then after that I put on some base color, and after that I added some highlights with the same hairbrush. Make sure that when you add hair highlights to make the hair pop, that it's in add mode. And also make sure that the opacity is low. That way you won't draw over the base color excessively. Drawing or retouching hair is one of the hardest things to do, especially when you're starting out. But just remember to keep on practicing and using a brush consistently, because it definitely did not take me one go to get all this hair retouching right. Remember, I'm not a traditional artist, so it took me, in reality, about 50 edits for me to get good at finding a hairstyle, a style of drawing hair, and also what brushes worked for me. So I imagine that for some people it might be like that too, but for art you need to be patient. Sandy also wants to know how to use the selection tool. So I also call it the lasso tool just because that's how it appears in the toolbar, and you can see me select it here trying to manipulate this dark circle. I draw a circle around this dark object, and you can see 3 modes: transform scale, perspective form, and mesh form. Transform scale can enlarge and rotate an object. It's a very simple mechanism, and you can see how to deselect one mode or select both and manipulate the object as you see fit. Next, I'm on perspective form. Perspective form can change the angle at which you see something and also enlarge and rotate at the same time. I use this a lot. Next, I'm on mesh form. Mesh form can manipulate parts of an object more than others, and it can change the shape. So here I'm going to try to rearrange this circle to a more square shape. This can be done easily. As you can see, this is how it looks like now with less blurry edges. Afterwards, you can remove the selection by pressing that dotted square. I'm going to select a part of this square now, or this rectangle, and you can see how it appears on the selection layer. It's blue, so when I click on the selection layer, I'm actually going to add to it. You can add to parts of your selection on the selection layer. So check it out. That's how it looks like. Now I'm going to manipulate only a part of this selection layer. You have to make sure to click your layer that you actually want to manipulate. So that's my layer 1, and I'm going to use my perspective form to see. So that's one part of the rectangle that's being moved and manipulated by transform and perspective scale. You can always undo it by pressing the red cross. And also here's my mesh form. I'm only moving that selection of the rectangle. That's how you use the selection tool. I hope that was helpful. Sandy's third question is about having issues selecting a dark color and what it should be for shading or any dark related things. Well, for that, I would say number 1 rule of thumb is to never ever use black. Here I'm going to show you how I do it on a blue skinned character that I cosplayed as. So as you can see, the shading color is a darker variation of her skin color. You have to find it there. Go on the color wheel and select the correct color that's not black. It has to have some tint of the skin color. In this case, it's blue. I've sped up this process of me shading because I think that's kind of the redundant part. The important part is the color picking. Make sure that your color is correct from the get-go, so at least the shading won't look weird and overly dark. And also, having a black color or any color with a black tint will definitely wash out your edit and make it look super flat. That's why you have to make sure that if your skin color is, say, beige, you find a dark variation of beige. Here, the skin color is blue, so find a dark variation of blue on the color wheel. Scroll on the color wheel like you see me doing here. And also, the blue that I'm using is kind of like the Squidward blue. Maybe it's even green, I can't tell. But it's somewhere in the middle, so that's how you know you shouldn't get anything black. Black does not belong there, and you should only use black when you absolutely have to. Plus, you should use a shading brush too, so never use a dip pen or some kind of hard shading brush. Use something with soft edges, just like this one here. Fairy Clouds Zepeto on Instagram asks, what's the hardest part on a Zepeto avatar to edit? Nose, eyes, hair, clothes, etc. To me, it really depends, but in general, for me, it's probably the nose. I think the nose is something that I'm still struggling with, and it is understandably very difficult because noses are a weird shape. Let's admit it. It's a weird shape. Eyes, I think, like, there's a pattern to drawing eyes, because, I mean, there's always going to be circles in your eyes, and you can color the whites in your eyes whatever you want. You can color them black, blue, anything. Just, like, as long as you separate it in layers, you're fine. But for a nose, I think it depends more on skill, honestly. That's why I avoided drawing noses until I knew I could handle it. As for hair, that's just fun to me. It's all for fun. Clothes, same. User Tatsumi Wakasa on Instagram says, I'd love to see you talk about handling negative criticism when you hit Zepeto's For You page. Well, for that matter, I like to mostly ignore the comments. Sometimes delete them if they're just terrible and you don't want to see them, but like you can also report them if they're offensive in any way, and your report will most likely go through. But other times I'm a bit of a sass, which is sometimes my mistake. And sometimes I do just say, like, okay, if you want to criticize my edit, then just make a better one than me. Then let's talk. But there are other times where people swear in my comments or do stuff like that. I definitely report those. You don't have to respond because usually these haters just come and go. Like, they just come to comment and leave after that and don't check it again. So after I say, like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. They just don't respond after that. But you should just remind yourself, who are you making these edits for? To please these toxic kids or to please yourself and have fun? Shay_Zepeto on Instagram asks, what is your favorite part in editing? For me, it's probably editing hair, just because hair really brings out the character of the artist and also the piece in general. Like, it shows how I edit hair, and hair is so vibrant for me. I like to make my hair shiny and vibrant in the edit, so I'm glad that it's such a satisfying and relaxing process. Mal on Instagram asks, how do you balance time for editing? I believe law school is really hectic. That is true, and that is a really good question, Mal. Well, actually, I don't know the answer to this myself. I just really like working. I think that's it. I don't overwhelm myself with work at all. Like, I give myself time to relax, and that's definitely when I give myself time to edit. So I think that's why I'm able to balance them, but I hope I can keep this up. User FroggoSika on Instagram asks, how long does it usually take for you to do one full edit? She admires how short I took to do with my nose edit. Thank you so much, Sika. It depends on my edit type. So as you can see from edit type A, it only took me 30 minutes to do edit type A. For type B, it can range from 1 hour to 3 hours. Although sometimes the 3 hours is just me being lazy and just hovering on the image, so maybe it might take me about 2 hours on average for a cosplay type of edit where I don't have to change the pose or draw anything new besides the hair and the eyes and also the lips and retouch everything. But then for type C, that's where things get a little bit crazy. So I'm a bit chaotic when I work on type C. For this Real Mayor cosplay, I worked on 2 different canvases, so you can see that it took me 1 hour and 35 minutes for this one, which included drawing the background, and the other canvas took me 1 hour and 8, so you add them up and it's 2 hours and 43 minutes. And for this FKA Twigs one, 3 hours and 23 minutes. But when I first started out, it took me 5 to 6 hours to complete one, just because I didn't have a set system or like more rigid rules in terms of what to draw, how to draw them, like how do I draw hands, how I draw a nose. It was just shooting in the dark. So I think I did get a grasp on it, but it's only because I've been practicing so much. My mentee, Elilu, is asking a simple question. Is it better to upload every day or every 3 days? So you would try your best to upload every day. Of course, that doesn't go to plan all the time. So try your best to upload every 2 days, actually. 3 days is cutting it a bit too close, because once you lose your streak on the For You page, I think for most people it's done, and you have to start all over again. But if you upload every day or every other day, then it should be okay. Whoa, that rhymed. I hope that answers your question. Also, Elilu, Zepeto is watching you closer than you think, and that sounds really creepy, but it's true. I haven't taken a single hiatus since February because I've been uploading posts every 1 to 3 days, and I've always made sure to make time. So as long as you keep your streak going, only good things will come. Just be patient. Sometimes when I use add, it appears white and I can't fix it changing intensity. For that, you should change your blending mode to add mode very first thing. So make sure that the color corresponds or fits nicely with add mode before you start drawing anything, because I think I used to do that before as well. I would draw in a light color and then switch it to add mode later on and realize that it wasn't right. Lastly, Elilu asks, any recommendations for doing lighting or shadows on white clothes? I always feel like I'm making the clothes dirtier. Oh, I feel you. Well, what I would say about that is you definitely have to create a base color first. Make it off-white, like ivory or gray even. Do not draw white first. That is your first mistake, because well, you could if you really wanted to, but the problem with that is it's really hard to estimate a nice shadow. So it's a lot easier to add a shadow first, just any color really, any color that's appropriate, and then you put white on, like softly airbrush it on, because that's what I always do and it always works. You can even put that in add mode. White is very forgiving in add mode because, you know, it's white. Finally, this is not a question, but my dear friend Yen, or Y2K Cyber, says, we are grateful for your hard work in your videos. Thank you, Val. Thank you, Yen, for watching, even though you're not a mentee. It's just such a joy to be able to help anyone, really. So I'm really grateful for everyone, too. I want to say the biggest, fattest thank you to every single person who's watched my lectures. I hope that they were helpful. I plead they were helpful. And even if you're not my mentee, it's just so flattering and such a huge compliment to be able to help people. Yeah, like, I'd never imagined that I'd be doing this, to be honest. What else? Well, I'm also really grateful that Zepeto has given me this opportunity, and who knows, you might see more of me in the future. So yeah, I'll see you soon, maybe, but I think I'll try my best to upload here. I might make alternate tutorials, maybe. I'm not sure. Tell me in the comments or just message me or comment somewhere. I definitely want to keep doing this, but it won't be as regular, unfortunately, because I do have to go back to university soon. So yeah, I'll see you.